Hello, everybody, and welcome to another A Better Way of Life. It's Friday. It's early morning, and some of you will be bleary-eyed and wondering how on earth you managed to get to the end of the week. Like this little chap. There he
I
is.
love him.
Oh, I want to talk into the microphone. No, you don't.
My psychic's not here. She's in the house.
This is Trooper the dog. The inspiration. Well, actually, when I say inspiration, he writes my LinkedIn newsletter for me. He's so much better at writing than me. He's on mate's rates, so he's very cheap, but it does a great job. And he's already got over 4,000 people subscribed to your newsletter, haven't you? Which is wonderful. If you haven't subscribed to it yet, please do. It's you can find it on my profile on LinkedIn. What's your week been like, Marianne?
Well, I haven't been doing what a lot of other people have been doing.
Okay.
What have a lot of people been doing? If you look on LinkedIn.
Oh, a lot of people have been moaning about having no reach. Yes.
Yes, and I haven't.
Yes.
I absolutely haven't. And it's one of those times I'm sat there. I'm going to say not for good feeling smug, because I'm sure that something will happen to take that away. Maybe not that I'm being negative. I'm just being realistic. But for all those years and times that I threw my toys out of the pram, yeah, I did, and moaned, and it's not fair, and blah, 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 blah. And other people said, well, you've just got to keep at it. You've got to keep going. Life's unfair, Marianne. And I've kept going. And every man and his dog has been moaning about their reach. And I'm sat there going, oh, I was doing all right, actually. I don't know why. I think some of it is that I've changed things up a little bit. So there's lots of different things that go out. There's the businessy, serious sort of stuff, which has always been there. That's always been there. And then there's the more fun sort of stuff, which shows that other side of me, because there is that side of me. And then there's the other stuff that I'm going to do a post actually about this. Well, we will have done by the time this goes out. That I just sort of throw things out there, which just things I see that I think, oh, this is interesting. And it's a post about where I asked people to look at some numbers and say what they think. And I got told that it was seen as clickbait. Somebody said it was clickbait. And I got into a conversation with this person. And then I looked up actually what clickbait actually meant. And it actually is where you put out a comment or post that will be highly potentially controversial or put out purely to reap in lots of responses. I kind of think that's probably what most of us want to do, but there we go. But with and then the result of it is that person will be sent a link for a website or a link to send them somewhere else. And I said, well, I'm not doing either of those things. It's a post that I actually put out there that relates to what I do and inclusivity and that kind of thing. It would have gone out by then. My whole point was that if we sit and look at the world just from our own perspective, we're going to miss the fact that other people do it different ways. And it was really interesting for me to see the responses people came up with. Some people saw it some way, some worked it out other ways, which showed that, you know, I'm going to say so long as you get to the right answer, because that's obviously what you want to do when you're doing maths or arithmetic. But kind of what it showed was that we all get there in a different way. And there were some people that were open to doing it a different way. But there was other people that were very sure that that was the only way of doing it. And they're the people I'm a bit concerned about when they are leaders or trainers or educators, because you can't say that your way is the only way if there are different ways. And you're very much at risk of losing the people you're working with and what's the word, demotivating them as well, and destroying their self-esteem if you would claim that they're wrong doing it that way. I was very much, there was a few people that did it my way, which was where I said I did the tens bit, I would add up as a single unit. I think it was 39 ads, so I can't remember what it was, 19 I think it was. So I would do 3 add 1, which then I don't write that down as tens, but I convert it to tens in my head. I don't know if it's a neurodivergent thing. Also, there was other people that took it upon themselves to pick holes in the fact that there was no equal sign on there, which again is really interesting from the position of somebody who's being a leader or being an educator, that you consider whether you fully explained it correctly, that it may be a given for some people, and very many people just saw it as there was an equal sign. Other people wanted to point it out. And again, that can't be dismissed, because for some people, the equal sign not being there is a problem. That absolutely is a problem. And you need to listen to what you're told by people. So yeah, I got a lot from it, and I think we're up to about 300,000 impressions, and
Wow.
It's still going, which is really interesting. So, but I think what it has shown is that you can't sit and do something just one particular way, and that for a long, long time I was randomly, haphazardly posting. Then I got involved with you, and we looked at having a strategy, and it's still really important to have that there, and that's the stuff that shows that you know what you're talking about, that there's depth to what you do, but there is also the other stuff. And it's funny because last week somebody tried to pick holes in me and try and you and try and pull us apart, but only actually looked at the fun type post, but didn't actually take it upon themselves to look at the content that is to do with my business. But and that people sort of try to talk about the rules that are out there. And again, you know, people have got businesses that do all sorts of things. There's other people that do relationship of types, I don't want to say because I don't want to get it, who were told that that shouldn't be on LinkedIn because it's not business. Well, it is if it's your business. If it is. So yeah, there's a lot going around at the moment, but I have been sat there feeling a bit like, oh well.
Well, there you go. It's a funny old world we live in, and especially in the LinkedIn world. I think a lot of people are feeling very confused right now about what they should be doing on LinkedIn.
Talking to people, but one of the biggest things, and you know this, is that there's some people I think that do interact with each other's. We won't address what that is right now, but there are some people that do. And there's other people that just post. And as I say, it's a bit like having a shop, expecting people to come to your shop, but you not going shopping in anybody else's shop. But you know, I do interact with the people the same as you do. We interact with the people on our posts, and I do get to know people, and people get to know me. Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't do that.
Well, it's interesting. When I spoke on this the other day at an event, and I asked people how long they think they should be interacting with people sort of during the day on LinkedIn. And I think someone piped up and said sort of 15 minutes. And I said, 15 minutes? Well, you know, that's really not going to achieve anything, is it? 15 minutes. And I said, the thing is, if you start thinking like real life, if you start a conversation with somebody, if you just walked away from them after sort of like 15 minutes, you know, it would seem a little bit rude.
You have to keep it going, don't you?
Unfortunately, you have to make the time, and you have to keep it going. And if ultimately you haven't got time to do that because of having to do other stuff in your business, get somebody else to do it for you. Honestly, it's not that difficult. Let's bring Maggie in, who's sitting there patiently in the wings. Maggie is our guest for today, and we're going to find out a little bit about her. Maggie, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys.
I'm thinking about The Simpsons now. I bet you've had that so many times.
Maggie is not a Simpson.
Or Maggie Thatcher. I get called. People.
Oh no, I went for the fun one.
Thanks. That's better. I'll be a baby instead of an old lady.
Maggie, actually, your surname is Hewlett, as in the printers.
If only I had their money, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the Hewlett Packard without the money.
Oh dear. Do you have refillable cartridges?
I don't, I'm afraid.
No. Okay.
That's not my business.
No, there you go. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you do, Maggie.
Okay, well, I have been for the last 6 years a VA, virtual assistant, and I'm now pivoting slightly into what I genuinely love about what I was doing in the VA side, which is the accountability side with the clients. So I am now a strategic accountability partner. I still will offer the VA work because I have a team of associates with me. So, you know, there's still the package there of being able to help people when we go through the accountability and they realize they don't have time or don't want to do things. But I help them with basically the focus to keep on track of things. And that's been the thing that I've loved doing in the VA side, because I have a few clients that I do that for regularly anyway, especially some of my neurodiverse clients who do need that little bit extra focus because, you know, as they self-admit, they do sort of wander off their mind and they start something and then it gets done. And I know even me, and I needed accountability on changing the business to this accountability side, because it was something I've been thinking of and wanting to do, but procrastinating on, ironically, because I think if it's something you really want to do, it seems so big that you just, I'm definitely going to do this. I'm definitely going to do this. And then you sort of just find doing other things instead, which I'm sure, you know, that's not just for, you know, neurodiverse or creatives, that's all of us. But sometimes the things we really want to get done, we just don't. And sometimes it doesn't even really seem to be, it's not that I don't want to do it. It's not that that's not my end goal and I don't think that's going to help the business or grow. You just seem to not do it and find something else to do instead. So that's where I come in, and it's just to help people to really focus. What are the things you really need to focus on? So like short term, if you've got, I don't know, if you're a coach or something, you've got a membership to launch or a course, or maybe you're doing an event and you've got short term. So we'd like work together for a month, and that's really full on, you know, like accountability calls, check-ins. We'll have a session and we'll plan out your strategy and what it is you actually want to focus on. And then I will help keep you accountable to get those things done. And I know obviously from the clients I've done it with, even though it's been the VA side, but we've gone down the accountability side with them. I've seen some great results, and people have seen great results because otherwise they just probably wouldn't do things. And, you know, everyone's got ideas in our heads of things we want to do for the business. Even in your personal life, everyone has an idea, right, this is what I want to do. But so often, I mean, we all have lots of ideas, and all those ideas aren't always great ideas. Let's be honest. Some of them should be binned, but you need to keep having ideas for one of the good ones that you really feel passionate about and that really is going to stick and help your business or your personal life. And sometimes some people just need some external help with that. Especially as, you know, freelancers are working on your own, can be lonely. And sometimes we just all need accountability, basically. So that's what I do, and that's what I really love doing, because I get to see results. I get to see people at the beginning going, oh, I've got all this stuff in my head, I don't know what to do. And the end result is something that they wanted to do is done, is completed, and is helping them and helping other people. So
no, it's really important. I think a lot of people do lack that accountability, or they lack, especially, yeah, as you say, if you're not within a business structure, then it's really difficult, because a business structure, you would know exactly, you would be having meetings all the time to tell you, I expect these KPIs, I expect this to happen, etc. And you know, if you have a
team around you as well to remind you of things, and maybe to palm things off to or delegate to. Whereas
I love that, palm things off to. Yeah. I wonder how much of that actually happens within business. I think a lot. Actually,
definitely.
I reckon that most productivity problems within business actually happen because people spend their life palming stuff off to other people. They don't actually want to do what they're
the actual job.
They don't want to
just flick it off onto somebody else.
Oh, 100%. I'm absolutely, having spent a lot of time in other businesses with like previous work where I, consulted in other businesses and looked at processes that people were doing. Absolutely 100%. People would sit there and go, yeah, well, I deal with that by, I'll send them an email, and then I get upset because they're not, they're struggling to process that workload and whatever. Yeah. But you're not really taking any, you're a manager and you're not really taking any accountability for this. You're getting upset because they're not doing it, but all you're doing is emptying your in tray.
Well, I see it so often, people that I support, sometimes through access to work, but I don't like calling it coaching. I just support people that are in the workplace and neurodivergent. I don't like coaching. I don't like that because it's actually problem solving is what it actually is, or troubleshooting. Is that more often than not, when I sit down and I sit and I do say I need to speak to the manager as well, because otherwise it becomes a problem that the person is seen as the problem. And actually, when we sit down and look at it, I'm like, you're not the problem here. There may be things you struggle with, but actually you've got more stuff here than actually what your role is. And when I've had those conversations, they've said, I know, but that's what I've been told I have to do. And I said, but if that's not what your job description was and your job role, you are still not the problem. All it's doing is exacerbating the struggles that you do have, because the other person's not willing to look at what is going on here, because they're palming off just another thing and just another thing and just another thing. And particularly when you're neurodivergent, you'll keep going, yep, whoosh. And then either you get in trouble or you leave, or it all just goes wrong.
Interestingly, we were talking about a couple of subjects prior to bringing you on, Maggie. One was, and I think actually these great examples. So one is social media, and my honest belief is that most people in business probably haven't got the time that they need to spend on social media, doing social media.
Yeah.
Which is why I think you need to get other people in to help you with it. Because, or you need to re-identify that actually that should be a priority in terms of your business, and you need to spend more time and effort there. And I think actually when people start looking at it, perhaps they might actually see that, do you know what? I am spending a lot of time on the road, or going to network meetings, or doing this or whatever else, trying to get in front of clients. And actually I could really qualify a lot of that time better if I started off with more time on social media. Not for everybody, but certainly for some people. I definitely think there's probably a lot of business development managers.
Do I see that as my networking? I don't massively like.
No.
I haven't found a network that I would either could or would want to be part of. It would have to be something quite special, or for me to feel it. So for me, that is my networking. That is my networking. I don't have the time. I think people that maybe have got young children as well, or responsibilities, going to these events isn't necessarily going to reap that much. So that is my networking time. I have a laugh with people. I'm serious. I've got to know people.
Yeah.
There's a bit of snobbishness about it, though. I've seen some, I don't even know what sort of people they'd be, where they've said you should only be spending half an hour, 15 minutes, or however many minutes, and it's almost like a shameful thing to be on social media, because that's what naughty people do, because that's like Facebook.
But it depends how you're on social media. If you sat there on TikTok scrolling stupid dance videos for an hour, okay, fine. But if you're spending an hour on LinkedIn connecting with people and talking and finding out about people, then that's definitely worthwhile, as opposed to scrolling.
And it works, and that works better for some people than me. When I've been to some network things, I struggle in big groups to spread myself around. So then I would think, oh, I've come to this event, I've maybe spoken to one person, or nobody's spoken to me, when actually you can just go on to social media and
well, I'm going to say I see them as extensions of each other. I see that actually, if you've built those relationships online first, and then you go to an event where those people are, right, where you can pick up on conversations that you've started already and relationships you've started already, then you're creating the best use of time. Otherwise, you're literally starting from scratch at an event. You know,
to me, that's, and again, Maggie, you probably work with potentially quite a lot of neurodivergent people, and that to me would be my absolute idea of hell. And people go, but you're really, really sociable, you're really chatty. And I'm like, if the people are, and if I know them, Graham knows I went to an event with him and I didn't actually speak to him when I got there, more or less, because I kind of needed to know that there was someone there as my someone if I needed them, sort of thing. And so, but I'll tell you what I was thinking the other day was I very rarely actually see anybody ever invite me to anything or say, why don't you come along to this? Like, never. I work on my own.
Well, we did actually talk, but what I did was I introduced you to some people and then disappeared off, because I feel like, you know, and again, I feel like sometimes people like introduce people to people and then they like hang around for their own self-importance to like make out like they're the one that has to be the conduit there. But I feel like, you know, that should be the role that some people play, is literally just to go, hi, this is, you know, this is what they do. When you work
on your own, it's really difficult. When you've got your own business, you don't have a company to sort of, I don't know, it's sort of, for me, it's like legitimize it. I know that I do what I do well, but when I go to things, for a start, because of what I do, a lot of people don't see value in it anyway, or they don't see where I fit. So it can be quite difficult. So yeah, to have that introduction or to be invited to something is huge, and it can be a massive game player in terms of you finding work, particularly as an individual. I see lots of people that go to events that work for companies, and then they just get work and more in their role within a company. But when you're on your own, I don't think some people realise, and Graham and Maggie, you'll understand this, each little bit of work you get is huge, and you see that it's paid your mortgage or paid whatever. Like, literally it has, and you just think, gosh, you know, and I'm not working on the scales that many other people are, but then I don't have the costs. So when you see people talking about what, you know, the revenue, whatever they bring in for each month, I was thinking it's kind of irrelevant really, because we've all got different outgoings, we've all got, you know, different things that we do. But yeah, it makes a massive difference. So involve people if you can, because you'll also get a personal service, which is part of the other thing Graham and I were talking about before we came onto air. I was saying to Graham about how I've got to justify that I charge a bit more than some other companies that are out there in the mainstream market. And I was like, well, they're not going to get all of that other stuff if you're just going to buy bog standard cheap. And if you want to raise the bar, which is what's wanted, then it costs.
Yeah,
it costs. You know.
How many times do you have that conversation with people, Maggie?
I mean, it was, to be honest, it was me. I was always that person that hated saying like how much things cost, right? I hated saying my hourly rate. So I mean, when I first started, I think I was like £20 an hour, or I can't remember. I think I was 20, and even then, because I had so much imposter syndrome, I'd be like, it's £20 an hour. They'd be like, what? I'd be it's £20 an hour, but yeah, I mean, you know, and I'd be like, oh, and now I'm just like
this and that as well.
Yeah, or maybe I could. And I used to have, this is how bad it was. People would do like a discovery call, and I'll be like, yeah, okay, this is what I can offer. I'd be like, but you know, I always recommend people to, you know, speak to a few different VAs and see which one they like, and if you prefer the other one, it's fine. And I'm like, as I'm speaking, I'm like, what am I saying? Shut up. Like, how ridiculous is that? I'm not like that now. Now if people say, I'm like, this is my price, this is how much it is, that's it. But because that's the confidence in me. But before that, it was like, and so of course people can sense it. They're like, oh, maybe I can get a discount because she's clearly not confident of what she's charging.
Yeah.
But you know, in the VA world, I mean, I was on £25 an hour. When I raised it to 30, I'm on. I now for VA work it's 35 an hour. But when I raised it to 30, I was like, oh, I need to tell. And then I realised I was on 30, and new VAs were started, bang on 35, and I'm like, hang on, I've been doing this 5 years. How I need to up my price or something, because obviously the market changed, and I understand that there's lots of people that, you know, go elsewhere, go to other countries, get much cheaper VAs. I understand that, but they don't get necessarily, I'm not saying that they don't get the quality, because of course people all around the world can do this job, but you know, recently I lost a client for no other reason than just because they wanted to save money and go somewhere else, which is something obviously we all have to deal with. But I do know that, you know, I'm worth how much I charge. So
it's a really difficult one, isn't it? Because I know, you know, I'm a qualified teacher, and a while ago, Graham and I dealt with somewhere, and they were literally going to be paying £20 an hour for me to teach, and that was seen as okay. And you know it, and I'm not kidding you either. I'm literally not kidding you. That is what. So when I look at the prices out there for online, no, so not, well, you've got the online, and that's a whole other story, but you've got the, say it's on Zoom or whatever, companies that are using freelancers but are paying them at that low rate. They're bigger companies that can swallow that cost as well. And so it just gets really, really frustrating. And again, Graham knows, he's spoken to numerous companies that I speak to, and they will literally just go and get the cheapest. So whoever's sourcing it will say, just go and get the cheapest. And I sit there and I just think, how it just drives down.
Well, it gets to a point where you almost have to say that actually, yes, what
they're not the right client. Actually, if they just
but any unfortunately, with what I do, it's kind of like that whole area.
I almost feel like there's almost there is actually, having worked with Marianne for some time now, actually feel there is a massive training crisis out there at the moment. And actually, I think people are taking the quality denominator down and down and down and down. And I've seen it in other sectors before. I worked previously for many years in workplace adjustments, and the same thing happened there. So I was when I first started doing it, I reinvested a lot in extra training and extra qualifications for me, because I wanted to give more and more value. But I had to get, I got to a point where I had to bow out, because although I was improving me and I was offering more, people were buying in less, right? They were buying in people that had no expertise, no qualifications, couldn't really do the job, were producing tick box reports, etc. And you get to a point where you go, actually, do you know what? The sector has killed itself here. Sometimes you just have to go, I'm going to have to pivot. I'm going to actually have to do something else. I really hope we don't have to do that with Marianne.
Well, I kind of am, because I'm re-qualifying, so I can show up
exactly
calling myself learning and development instead of training, and be a qualified teacher, because
we've got a really good at LinkedIn. So folks, if you want people that know how to do LinkedIn, we're your people. Marianne is writing for people now as well, so there you go. Well, but you've had to pivot, right, a little bit, because unfortunately, I like that conversation this morning where someone's going, but justify, and you know it's just basically going to be we want to buy at this level, but you know that's going to be ridiculous. And however well you justify and say, but actually I have I deliver, as part of this I deliver proper psychology on this, as part of this I deliver proper neurodiversity training on this, etc., which you won't get anywhere else, etc. I have the, you know, the testimonies there to say that actually what I do is better than anybody else.
Also, and even all of the stuff that goes into making it so that the workbooks, the e-platform, everything else, and you know the pain we've had with that, all of that I've done so that the end result is the people that are using that, so that it flows well, and none of that's happening. And you know, Maggie, none of that stuff happens just overnight, which is, you know, I mean, I've been working with, well, I see a lot of people that are coaches or people that want to write courses who will spend a long time trying to write that course. And I'm like, just get me to write it. Just get someone like me to write it. Because seriously, the amount of time that is spent doing that is because, and it will be done right so that your customer then gets exactly what should be. But I think that it gets forgotten that if you want that quality, I mean, you'll see, like you said, even with VAs, I mean, I'm seeing the rise in VAs. Like I said, I see VAs getting paid more than I am as a, you know, as a, not just a trainer, but a qualified teacher that teaches as well. There seems to be a big array. But of course, as you'll see, it's because some people are literally just jumping on that, oh, I can work from home. I'm a mum that can, or dad or whatever, that can do that, through to people that are highly skilled. I mean, even when I got my access to work, the lady that did my assessment, I was told it would be minimum wage that they would pay, a VA, I suppose it would be. And she went back because she was an IQA, so she was an internal quality assurer. And she said, I know what's involved in your business, and I know that you can't have a VA that's being paid minimum wage, that's dealing with the data, because Graham knows because he deals with it, that's dealing with that data. You can't have that. And those conversations, if I'm going to trust somebody to do that, I can't have somebody literally potentially screw up my business, because on a high level, you know, and it must be frustrating for you then again to see that. I've seen many that have said what they can do, and Graham knows I was very, very like, oh God, if I'm going to hand over what I do to somebody else, this is really hard. And I see some people out there that say they are, and I think, really?
Do you get a little bit fed up, Maggie, of seeing like there's so many VAs now?
There are so many. I mean, that's not really the reason I pivoted. The reason I pivoted is just because that's the thing that I really loved, you know. Being honest, I feel I've been doing it long enough. You know, I was a general manager in hospitality for like 11 years before. I feel like I'm at a higher level now. I'm not going to just be checking someone's email and booking a call in from. That's not where I want to be. I've grown as a person, and I know so much more, and you know, I want to be doing the higher level things and genuinely helping people. But yeah, there's people out there that, you know, not knocking the VA industry, and like, you know, it's one of those industries that actually a lot of VAs do really work well together. It's much more of a community than it is people against each other, in my experience. I know some industries are like really to like the competition, but a lot of VAs, because there's VA associates, so a lot of people do associate work for each other, so it is quite a good community. However, yeah, it is frustrating when people are like, oh, I've just started and I offer email and calendar management, it's £35 an hour, and I'm like, I do understand why a client will want to pay £35 an hour possibly just for those things. You know, it has to be so much more, and a lot of VAs, I think after a while of just doing general VA work, they will niche into something that they enjoy doing the most. Like this social media, not my thing. Like content creation and stuff, not my thing, not my bag. Tech VAs, you know, I do work as an associate actually for a tech VA, so I know I do have a tech mind on some things, but again, not an expert in that by any means. And so like tech VAs, yeah, they should get more money, because actually what they do is really quite technical and skilled, and it takes a lot to learn all these systems, because there's so many systems out there, and you can't, yes, you can specialize in one system, but really for a tech VA, you need to know a lot of systems. So, you know, so yes, I do sometimes, but I don't want it to sound like I'm knocking the VA industry, because I'm not. It's been a good community and really helpful. And it's just, I just think, you know, for me, I'm just ready to pivot now. You know, still offer the VA side, but me personally, just be more.
It does feel a bit like similar to with coaching and training, that because you can do it and you don't have any qualifications, that people can just fall into it. And like I said, I do what I do. I teach people to teach. I've been a teacher for many, many years, trainer, and actually then I thought, actually, I quite like to teach other people to do with it, you know, which I really, really love. I'm using that experience, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's great to, you know, to do that.
But you've been doing what you were doing a while before you started to train people.
Exactly.
In the VA industry, sometimes you have people starting in VA and they've done it for like a couple of months and they go, I'm a VA mentor now. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some great VA mentors out there that have been VAs for a long, long time, and they've pivoted to being a VA mentor, and they're fantastic. But there's people that have not been doing it long, and they're like, oh, I'll just be a VA mentor, and then charging people for a membership.
Yeah, well, this is
anybody that's going to educate somebody has to have done whatever it is for a
long time. Yeah,
a long time to be able to. Someone said to me a while ago, is there anything you don't know? And I said, well, yeah, there's a lot I don't know.
Probably.
I said, probably have been around the block a fair few times in different settings, with different ages, with different all sorts. But I think it's just that and the coach bit as well. You know, it's like every man his dog seems to be coaches as well, and there's varying levels price-wise with that as well.
Because you can call yourself a coach, can't you, without actually any qualification?
Oh, do you know what? All of this drives me utterly mad.
Don't worry, I'm not a coach. When I was thinking of, somebody said to me, oh, what about coach? I went, I'm not a coach. Don't coach. I don't want the word coach in there.
I do coach people, but I don't call myself.
The whole thing drives me absolutely bonkers. The trouble is that people are just trying to rush into like money grabbing, you know, opportunity without any experience whatsoever. You know, they're literally out of diapers, and they're trying to help people run their businesses. They've got they've never worked in business themselves, or they worked in one office for like 5 minutes, then they've come out. Now they're doing this stuff, and it's just nonsense.
You've got a shiny bow to put on. If you then pay somebody, and I've been asked a lot of money. I've been told that somebody would charge a lot of money to make my voice heard, but as I've said before, there's nothing wrong with my voice. It's the ears that are listening or not listening. That somebody can dress somebody up as being X, Y, and Z. And I think this is part of what the problem is, that if you are quite humble and you just know what you do, I'm not big-headed, I'm sure you're not either.
I hate doing sales things. I hate it.
Yeah, I think when people are being taught to use their voice and be heard,
look, you know as well as I do that if you go on any coaching with any of those people, right, and you can see it in their DMs and how they talk to you online, that it's quite in your face, it's quite aggressive. It's aggressive. It's all about mindset. It's about push the bot. It's about knowing your self-worth. Push. Every 5 minutes, another push.
You can get 7 figures in 2 days.
Yeah, exactly. The way, and they would say to you within a week or so, this isn't going to work. There's not going to work because you don't want to change your mindset.
You don't have the right attitude.
You don't want to face up to people and go, I'm worth it. I am this. You don't want to say to people, you should be paying £1,000 a minute for my training, which everybody else is trying to get at 30 quid because I am God. And that's why it would not work. Right, it just
they've got their money, so they've got their money off you.
Yeah.
Yes. And then they said that you're the problem, and you're like, well, I never said that I was anything else than what I am.
Yeah, and also what they don't understand is the trial and tribulation that you're going through. And it's not like, you know, we haven't had numerous conversations with businesses about this, is that you're going through a transition period with training at the moment, like I said earlier, where people are cutting the quality out. And so actually what you offer, people are trying to take to the lowest common denominator. So when the market is doing that and you're trying to then amplify your voice and go, well, actually pay me more money than anybody else for this, right? You've got an incredible dichotomy there between actually where the market is and where, yeah, it's just not going to work. And then they'd realize that halfway through and go, oh, Marianne, you should pivot. And what you should do is you should become this, you know, and you'd go, I don't want to become that. And then they'd go, well, then this isn't for you then, is it? But yeah, you've still paid me a lot of money to do it.
It is, because I've seen many of these people that have said they could get me seen, they could this, that, and the other. And I've said, but do you know this? Well, I say sector because I work in lots of different sectors, but you do know what I do, and that people won't, some will, but won't. And they say, you're just not saying it right. And I'm like, oh, you're not speaking to the right people. And I'm like, really? You know, and as you say, of course,
the right people aren't there.
The Teflon coated, really. And I think, you know, I've been to a few sales things where it's this sell it quick, sell it cheap, sell it fast, sell it. And I'm like, that's not what I'm about. That's not what I'm about. But equally, when this person then says, stick with it and charge top dollar, yeah, but I've got bills to pay. And if I haven't got any customers, this is a problem. Yeah. And it's about finding that in between. I mean, you know, we've had conversations about what's the lowest I can go to. But also it's about that value, but equally needing to make those sales.
Yeah.
And sticking to your principles.
Ultimately, you know, sometimes you just have to say, well, I've gone as far as I can go within that, and that you know, there is no further I can go. And it might be that either I've now got to find another way, and we're looking at things like that. You're working on an ADHD training course that you're helping right at the moment. There's some potential there long term for sort of some work, etc. And I think it's just about making those gradual kind of changes into areas where there is more interest and there is more money. Yeah, that's about being accountable to yourself, really, which is that actually I'm recognizing that there's a market over here that just doesn't value itself anymore.
Yeah,
you know, when we've got training managers, and we've spoken to several, when we've got major organizations with training managers with no qualification in training,
that's scary, isn't it?
But it's most places.
People are employing lots of people in training these days with no qualifications in training, right? And it's just that's what I'm saying. We're on the brink of a training crisis.
And it is when you look at the fallout from that. I mean, Maggie, you were saying about, you know, with VAs. As far as I know, there isn't qualification, I assume.
No qualification.
And the same with coaching. And many of the conversation I have with people as to why they feel that they shouldn't be qualified at training is, but I can do it, why should I need to? And I say, but why shouldn't you? Like, why shouldn't you? All a qualification is, really, when you get down to it, is proving that you are at a standard to be able to do something. And I don't see the problem with that. Yes, then, you know, there may be a problem with a qualification, as in, is it fit for purpose? But what people don't actually see is what goes on for something to be a qualification, not CPD accredited, which is just literally somebody that's just put a stamp on something. I'm not discrediting some of that stuff, but that is, when something's a qualification, that qualification has gone through rigorous checks to make sure, does it do what the market needs it to do? Does it change? You know, that's why, you know, degrees will change, any qualification will change, because is it actually measuring what it needs to? Is it teaching what it needs to? Because things are changing in the world. The people don't realise
that qualification. I know that person really has done what they need to do and is the right person to help me, because I understand that qualification
absolutely
means.
It means it's that badge of honour that says it says that
if you had a VA, for example, that says I can do bookkeeping, right? Now, if they've got some qualifications in accounting, right, tells you quite a lot, right? Whereas if they go, yeah, I used QuickBooks once, right? So we all don't really mean very much, does it?
If you're me, no,
exactly. And especially things like with bookkeeping, like a lot of VAs don't touch bookkeeping, or they have qualifications in it because it is regulated. So I couldn't just, for example, do bookkeeping because I don't have any experience of doing bookkeeping. It's not something I offer. You have to be registered for that. So that is, one of those things that if there's VAs out there and they're like, oh, I can have a go at bookkeeping. Actually, you might be breaking the law, to be honest.
It's interesting you say it, because I just don't think people get it. There's the people that do get it, and they absolutely every day of the week will shout about, yes, I've done this qualification and I'm really proud I've done it. A, because I've shown that I've achieved something and that I didn't think I could or whatever. But also now that I know, and we'll talk about imposter syndrome in a minute, but now that they know that they've got that, but also I'm sure that you have to draft people in, to do. And I know that I'm working with somebody who, so the guy Michael that I'm working with that's writing this ADHD course, that is phenomenal. He's got clinical people to look at it to make sure that clinically it is what it says it is, and they've got that stamp on it to say this isn't just something we found on the internet. We've had it looked over. They've got me, an educational consultant, to come in and actually write it so that it actually is written properly. Not somebody, like he said, I know my stuff. I'm really good with people, but I have no idea how to actually structure.
Writing it is different,
actually the writing it. And so to see that somebody's actually going to the time and effort to really invest in that, and I just see there's so many people, and that, like I said, you probably see it, so many people that go, oh, I can make some money by writing a course on that. And I'm like, and it frustrates me, because they'll invest lots of money in lots of other stuff. And Graham, you've seen that if I can write somebody's stuff for them and it will be done properly. But surely for you as somebody that is a VA and has associates, if there's something like you said you can't do, you'd feel surely far happier using somebody that's got not only the bit of paper. I know that the bit of paper, it's not even that now, usually it's a PDF. But if you've got that, people say, well, that alone doesn't make you great. Okay, no, it doesn't. But if we team that with your references, surely you'd want both that will say, look at me. Not only have I got the ticket, I've also got that to back it up.
Yeah.
And you, I'm pretty sure, would feel much happier using the services of somebody that can prove that they've done that.
Yes. I mean, there was lots of debates recently about because obviously, like, new VAs, so VAs that are just starting out, are struggling to get associate work because because some of the jobs that are advertised by lead VAs are quite specific, and sometimes people don't read job specs and they're like, yeah, I can, I'll do that, I'll give it a go, and it's like, no, you really need to have had this experience, you really need to have done this before. There are jobs, of course, that new VAs can do, and when you're a new VA, obviously you've got to get a start somewhere, and there's lots of lead VAs that will take on associates that are brand new to the business, and obviously start off with easier certain jobs that certain tasks and certain clients that need someone just to hit the ground running. They don't need somebody that needs training on it or has never done this before. So yeah, it is a case of new people that are new into it can't always apply for things with lead VAs and don't get the job, and that's because they haven't read it properly or they just think they can do it. But
here's a question for you, Maggie, which this is a market we haven't necessarily looked at before, but should Marianne be talking to people that are looking after groups of VAs? Because training VAs,
Mhm.
right, without qualification in training. I'm just saying that's
Yeah.
leaving the ground
Also, those
open.
working with coaches that write training.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I heard you say that.
Should those that are, you know, holding together a group of associated VAs, etc., be doing their AET level 3 so that they are qualified to train a group of VAs? Because that shows then that they are going to be delivering that information really professionally down to
Mhm.
that group of VAs. Just
That's
saying.
a good suggestion. I mean, to be honest, I don't know anyway if any of the people that I know are VA sort of mentors or do training for VAs. I don't actually know whether what qualifications they
I
have.
bet most
They
of them
might
have got nothing.
They
I
might
know
already have them.
I know
Some-
somebody that's asked me to write, probably with them, because I know people's budgets are different.
Yeah,
So I can either write it for people,
yeah,
teach them how to write courses, or I'll do it with them and hold their hand with it.
yeah.
So,
I mean, there's
so
a lot of them that are really professional and have got everything ticked and everything by the book, and there's others that are just random, like, oh, I'll be a VA mentor because that looks like I can make more money. You know, you don't really know what you're doing. So, yeah,
If
but
you're
there
a
are
VA mentor out there, we want to hear from you.
there's some
Yeah, I
good
know
ones. You know who you
this
are.
particular person, I know that she is. I don't want to say too much because, like, I promised I wouldn't say too much because of an idea she's got because someone stole an idea. So, but working with people that specialise, VAs that specialise in neurodiversity.
Yeah,
so
and there's
working
quite a few of those.
but actually knowing what they're doing and having that training, so she wants to put something together with that.
Mhm.
And I think it really is needed because it's the same as coaches that I speak to that go, oh, you know, I work with all sorts of people, and then I've had conversations with them and they said that they're just telling me what to do, and I'm like, first thing you need to do is not tell me what to do. Do not tell somebody that's neurodivergent what to do.
Yeah.
Going to work. that as you said, Graham, it's that shouty kind of thing. The best way from, you know, working with me as someone that's neurodivergent is listening to me and who I am, and the same, you know, you'll know, and that's that some of the things will work, some of them won't. But it's as soon as I hear "if I were you," and I'm like, but you're not me. You're not me. And actually, what I want to hear is, from what you're saying, Marianne, this is what you want.
Yes, individual, treating people like an individual, their particular needs. They, you know, things like, you know, my accountability, it's not the same, like, we'll do this and we'll do that and that's it. No, who are you? What is it you want to get out of your head, and how do you work? And let's tailor it to how you work, not just.
And you know, also, what have you got going on in your life?
Yes,
you know, Graham knows
really
well and knows that there are times that I've got stuff going on in my life, and I used to feel guilty to begin with when we first started working, because I'd be like, oh, I go and see my neighbour in the day sometimes, so often I'll take my work over and sit and work with him, or I'll go out, and then I'd feel like I had to apologise. But then I said to him last night, I was doing marking with my laptop in bed, you know, because that's just how it works, because that's the hours I want to work. But if you don't get to know how someone works, then it's just not going to work, because that's why I don't like a lot of this coaching that goes on in terms of people that are neurodivergent, because all you're doing is you're not actually working with them. So with the access to work, the coaching idea is like, I can coach you about being you. Some elements you can work with someone to put things in place for them. But I said to Graham, motion isn't, we've tried it, I can't, because I feel like it's telling me what to do, and I'm like, don't tell me what to do. And so if we were just accepted, it isn't going to work. That's not because I'm naughty or bad or anything. It's just, whereas I think there are many coaches that sort of almost act like a god, as, you know, I'm going to tell you what to do. But it's a bit like going to Weight Watchers each week or something like that. If you need something to be there, how is it actually going to work when that goes? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, that reminds me, actually. I had a friend start.
Not saying Weight Watchers is wrong, by the way. I wasn't saying it.
No, yeah, I was going to say other slimming clubs are available. I had a friend that was started at one of those slimming clubs last week.
Is that friend you?
Apparently, apparently the first couple, yeah, exactly. Apparently the first couple of weeks are just finding your feet.
Brilliant.
So
But you know what I mean, though, about that, and that's why I think VAs that's why when I've seen many VAs, I think, have you really got an idea? The same as trainers. I don't think a lot of trainers really understand fully what their responsibility is, which is what I do when I'm working with people, is to say, you're not just here to share what you know, you're here to do a whole lot more than that. It's about culture change. It's about working with them, finding out what they want, which is why I say I do career, like, what's it called? Like job coaching. I do life coaching as well within what I do, because it isn't quite often, probably the same with being a VA, you end up being a bit of a counsellor as well, because
Yeah.
you know, I know as a trainer, people tell you stuff.
Yeah.
People tell you, managers expect you to solve stuff because you're a trainer. You'll work with them, won't you? People tell you stuff because you're a trainer, and you end up with all this stuff that becomes part of your job role, which I do with people, and they're like, "Whoa, I never realised there was so much." And I said, "No, because a lot of trainers think that they are just up there.
Come in, I'll tell you what you need to know, and that's it."
And the same as with being a VA, whereas actually to do it and do it well,
you really need to get to know your client. You really need to get to know them, everything about them, how they work, times of the day that their brain works the best, times of the day that they need to be left alone. All of that is so important.
oh, hallelujah. Now, I'm going to leave you the last couple of minutes just to talk about you and sell your services, Maggie, because that's what we do for people.
Sell yourself, you're going to say that.
Yeah. But just before we do that, just picking up on what Maggie's just talked about, I'm going to have one final little whinge about VAs. Okay. And it's to all of you social media VAs out there. Please stop when it comes to selling people tick box social media. It doesn't work. Sorry, it doesn't. Stop selling it to people. Stop it right now. And people, don't buy it. Please. It's ridiculous. Right. You know who you are. People that are selling, like, here's a content calendar for the next 30 days. Stop it. It doesn't relate to anybody's business apart from your business. Or it's just like useless kind of, you know, it's National Day of the Dog or something. It's ridiculous. It's not going to work for anybody. Anybody that does those kind of buy 100 hook lines, ridiculous. Again, it's not getting to know anybody's business.
Some of the best things come about from me just because I see them, and then I just post it, and it
really gets on my whip.
Absolutely.
People selling sort of like templated solutions for people as part of their package. Stop it now. Just stop it. Thank you very much. Maggie, final word to you. If people want to get hold of you, they want to be held more accountable, what do they need to do?
So my website is being changed slightly from the VA side, but it is
that's a long website title. Can you shorten it?
MaggieHewlett.com. MaggieHewlett.com. Nice and easy.
Or better.
Please come and find me on LinkedIn. It's Maggie Hewlett VA on LinkedIn.
As in Hewlett Packard.
As in Hewlett Packard, but no Packard, no money, and VA. Maggie Hewlett VA.
I do feel like you should dress up as a printer or an ink cartridge at some point, and just, you know.
No, because I don't have the money. No, maybe it was the Packard side that does all that. The Hewlett side, the office based.
Yeah, absolutely. If you would like to put a bit of Maggie Hewlett in your life, there you go. Do connect with her on the old LinkedIn and, you know, get in touch. Get a bit more accountable.
I'm the best. Sorry, I just couldn't help what we were saying. I'm the best.
I know.
Yeah.
Got a fancy background and lots of poses.
Yeah.
You'll be there.
If you would like a very expensive photo shoot in an overly bright costume with silly looking glasses, then go to one of the overly expensive photographers who are doing the rounds on LinkedIn, who will do that photo shoot for you so that you can have all the confidence in the world. We will be back same time, same place next week with more of the same. But until then, from Maggie and Marianne and myself,